The story is about a former top assassin who must protect his family from his past after they're unexpectedly thrust into danger. The film opens in New York City. Dan has a keen eye for detail that makes him an excellent vehicle salesman. Once more, he is crowned Salesman of the Month. He enjoys living a modest life and is looking forward to his anniversary with Jessica, his wife. Their 3 children are named Na, Kyle, and Max. The family is stressed up since Na and Kyle fight a lot. Dan wishes Kyle to spend more time outside since he irritates him so much when he plays video games. Dan is concerned about Na's desire to switch her college degree due to her lover. Dan attempts to give his kids advice, but they ignore him. At a friend's house, Kyle plays games in secret, and Na believes she's old enough to design her own decisions. Dan and Jessica enjoy going to a carnival every year, but Jessica wants more excitement in their lives. After a fun roller coaster ride, Dan promises to make their outings more unpredictable. During a sweet moment when Dan and Jessica kiss, someone takes a picture of them without permission. The person posts the photo online and starts bothering Dan. A drink is spilled on Dan and Jessica is insulted, which makes things worse. Dan turns away in spite of the taunting and rudeness. Dan's battle with the lads was not something Jessica wanted, and she feels a deep disappointment in her husband despite his hatred of violence. He thinks he must hold back at home. He keeps thinking about the confrontation. Jessica uses boxing as a release, and after an inadvertent hit to her opponent, she forges an unanticipated smoothie-related friendship. I feel confined, too, and Jessica confides this to her new travel agent friend Gwen. Dan's satisfaction with their current existence frustrates her, even though she values his skills as a husband and parent. While out shopping with Max, Dan's attention is drawn to a suspicious man seemingly watching him. Acting cautiously, Dan is quick to react when the man makes a move to attack. Even with Max with him, Dan skillfully manages to fend off the attacker's advances, neutralizing him with ease. Even Dan's neighbors have noticed something odd about him, which has startled the locals. Dan finds a hidden box at home that holds cash, old passports, and firearms. Concerned, Dan calls his old friend Augie to set up a new identity for his family, letting him know they're in danger. Augie tells Dan to leave as quickly as possible because she believes that McCaffrey, Dan's former supervisor, is the source of the danger. Dan turns out to be a former assassin. He hasn't disclosed anything to his family. It's possible that McCaffrey found him because of the carnival image. When Dan goes looking for Na at an editorial meeting, he finds that she resigned 3 months prior. After a small incentive, her friend sells her out. He finds Na under the bleachers, upset that she abandoned her dream. But there's no time to dwell on this as they need to collect her brother from the chess club. Dan, on the other hand, is dismayed to see him and his game setup in their neighbor's house. Dan informs his children they are heading to Vegas with caution. Dan convinces Jessica to take the impromptu vacation she has been longing for in the middle of her workday. She is first hesitant, then she gets enthusiastic and chooses to attend. But McCaffrey's men are already waiting as they prepare to depart the parking lot. Dan deftly dodges the assailants as the bus goes past. Dan gets caught up by them in a minute, but not before he maneuvers around without his family noticing. It's difficult to flee when a satellite is tracking you. Dan drives into his workplace and closes the gates on the pursuers. He then lifts the car up and finds the tracker. He hides just in time for the pursuers to miss him and his car. The family still has no idea. Dan sticks the tracker on his colleague's car and tells him to give that car a spin on the highway. Attackers accept the offer. His kids and spouse are uploading and tweeting about their vacation with 33 hours remaining. Dan takes hold of everyone's phones so he can stay incognito. The journey is gadget-free. Their inability to find the way there is the only issue. The travel agency clerk locates route maps for them after providing them with one more little enticement. For once in a long while, their family is truly growing closer. McCaffrey, meantime, witnesses Dan's home firsthand and is certain that his family remains unaware. Someone is going to make a mistake eventually. A stranger recognizes Kyle from his streaming career and requests a photo as he is conversing with his sister. Dan sees Kyle and the girl taking selfies and knows that McCaffrey will be on his tail soon. so he decides to continue driving to avoid being found. McCaffrey hired more men to track Dan, and he notices 3 of them briefly. He puts music on each of his family's headphones while they are fast asleep and is ready to employ deadly force. Despite having a damaged mirror, he succeeds in getting rid of one and just about avoids colliding with one of them. His folks are still in bed. To be honest, his family is among the most restless sleepers I have ever encountered. The 3rd person takes off. Dan finally shuts his eyes after a night of driving, but his family is still awake. Na talks her way into viewing the college she wants to attend, which is about half a mile away, a beautiful location with lots of activities. Jessica even displays her ability to do a keg stand. Na even discovers that jerk. The main reason Na was interested in visiting the university was because Trevor, her boyfriend, was a student there. On a campus tour, Dan spots a German man on his phone and suspects he might be an operative for McCaffrey. However, Dan realizes his mistake when he is unexpectedly attacked by a different individual. After a brief altercation in the chemical lab, Dan renders his attacker unconscious and quickly reunites with his family to continue their journey. Therefore, Na visited Trevor. It is she who discovers his infidelity. Dan helps her learn a martial arts technique that she applies on Trevor when she comes back weeping. This helps her feel a lot better and increases her appreciation for her family. The family grows closer when they are traveling together. Na also thinks about regaining her editing job at school and thanks Dan for always being there for her while she is driving. Parents finally had some downtime in a little hotel. The impulsive Dan has captured Jessica's heart. There is a difference in him that she senses. Dan calls up Augie, who is on his way to deliver the new identities to Dan and his family. The only problem is that he hasn't told them yet. He then sneakily returns the phone he stole and tries to prepare himself for the conversation. When Kyle arrives, they finally discuss him being a streamer. He's really excellent at it, like professional level good. He wants to play laser tag with Dan to demonstrate it. It was a first to 3 kills wager. Given that Dan was formerly an assassin, this ought to be easy for him to do. He receives both the first and second tags. After that, Dan wins the final one while Kyle responds with 2 of his own. Although Kyle feels duped, they get very intimate. When they do make it to Las Vegas, they are lodging in one of the best suites in town. Dan needs to hurry downstairs first, though. When he meets Augie, who is obviously very rich, he gives him their new identities and a one-way ticket to Vancouver. As he is ready to tell Jessica the truth at a romantic meal, Dan gets ready. While the kids babysit Max, Dan tells them not to leave the suite under any circumstance. Not like they will listen. Dan's whereabouts is already known to McCaffrey's men. Popular gamer Kyle visits the HyperX gaming arena, where he meets Vaki and even receives recognition. She even permits him to compete for her squad in the Valorous finals. But McCaffrey's men are on them as well. While Na gets comfortable with one of the gamers that gave his spot to Kyle, Kyle is single-handedly destroying the enemy team. Dan chooses to put off telling Jessica the truth for a little while longer in order to go gambling with her since he is constantly interrupted. However, after some time, he calls to see how the kids are doing, but no one answers. They then make their way back up. Dan feels more at ease when Jessica is tricked into believing that they are sleeping by dummies. Jessica switches on some romantic music and gets dressed. That's precisely when McCaffrey's men strike, when love is missing. Dan shoots and tosses vodka, neutralizing the attackers and setting them on fire. Jessica, though, is captured. Dan drops his rifle, but he snatches a knife ever so slightly. Jessica experiences a sad realization when the attacker calls Dan Sean. While the guy is yapping, Dan neutralizes him as well. Jessica runs to the kids but finds the dummies. She knows they have to look in HyperX since that's all Kyle's been talking about. However, given Kyle's garbage, they really need to have employed a little better gameplay. Even so, he ends up with 30 kills in the game. Their parents come to fetch them up right after the game concludes. At last, Dan admits it. His former co-workers are out to get him since he is a clandestine assassin. Nevertheless, unless they are fired at, the youngsters don't believe it. At last, Dan admits that he had killed 42 individuals and that he was McCaffrey's hired gun. Kyle believes Dan is a hypocrite, and they now know why Dan is so anti-social media and never wanted to leave the city. He hands them their new identities. Na is now Molly and Kyle is Van, like a vehicle. After 18 years of lies, the family refuses to accept him. Jessica is leaving him and will take responsibility for the kids. She calls Gwen, asking for help while Dan is left to guard outside until the very morning. Jessica simply tells Dan to make it safe and keep away from them, even though he tries to explain that it's not safe that McCaffrey would come for them. Jessica discovers that Gwen is a rather strong lady when she arrives. Gwen talks abruptly about her ex-husband, who started a new life with a grumpy lady and other things. After that, she befriended the woman and bided her time till she fell into her trap. Yes, Jessica is a scammer. Unexpectedly, McCaffrey has arrived. McCaffrey calls Dan to let him know that his family is being held captive. He sets up a rendezvous in a deserted motel. McCaffrey's henchmen are all over the place. Dan must be flattered. Arriving at the penthouse, McCaffrey asks for a sarcastic hug. Turns out he's Dan's father. What? For the past few days, Dan has squandered every guy McCaffrey has sent after him, even though McCaffrey wanted Dan dead since he abandoned him. His dad desires his return. How much more twisting will this have? He will let Dan go if he returns to work for him. His family will perish if he refuses. Dan consents to do it as he has no other choice. The children's morals suddenly take hold. Even though they only intended to break things up with Dan a moment ago, they want Jessica to stand up for him. When the children are trying to convince their mother that they cannot leave Dan, Jessica begins changing Max's diaper and stuffs it in the villain's face, putting him off to his death. They will go get their dad back. While McCaffrey goes to make some arrangements, Gwen uses her feminine wiles to seduce Dan back into loving her, ignoring the tech guy. She knows how Dan works. As he puts Gwen to sleep, the family comes to his aid. The IT man has been kidnapped. Dan pledges to always tell Jessica the truth and expresses regret for withholding secrets from her. He aspires to be a devoted parent and spouse to her. McCaffrey detects a problem in the interim. Kyle's fan, by the way, is the tech man. After Kyle gives the drone a try, it becomes clear that Dan is a tech wizard. Henchmen are on their way. Telling his family to go to the roof, he promises to take care of them. He'll have Kyle as his eyes and ears. Dan, who is dealing with McCaffrey's men skillfully despite their numbers, receives intelligence from Kyle, who uses the drone to locate his guys. McCaffrey notices that the drone is aiding Dan and wakes Gwen up to find the family. Dan tells his dad to call it off, but he doesn't listen, and despite 10 guys shooting with automatic rifles, no one manages to hit Dan. Gwen remained calm on the left as Jessica, seeing the elevator approaching, hides the children and fires. Being aware of Jess's superiority in hand-to-hand fighting, Gwen teases her. Not taking her seriously, Kyle claims there are 9 people remaining with strong CS. Dan takes them out one by one since he doesn't see the point in hiring sharpshooters. McCaffrey, at least, is pleased. In the end, he shoots the drone to death. While all of this is going on, Gwen wins the protracted catfight and buries Jessica behind a mountain of debris. Dan is clearly shot by McCaffrey when he knocks him down, but he needs to whine about how weak his family has made him. Meanwhile, Gwen corners the kids and that gives Jessica strength to lift up the debris, but she is still thrown around like a sack of potatoes. Dan manages to get bullets out of McCaffrey's gun, so they resort to stick-to-hand combat. Jessica musters her inner power, picks up a bamboo staff, and attempts an athletic leap, failing miserably. When Jessica tries again and is successful, Gwen finds it amusing. After a violent altercation, McCaffrey beats Dan and takes a pistol to kill him. But the family, enters and assures Dan they still love him. Dan now has an opportunity to respond. The cops show up just as the family has reconciled. After 6 months, rises to prominence as a journalist. Dan recruits Augie to work for his new self-defense training business. After Jessica becomes a coach, Kyle continues to post footage to the internet. The family packs up an RV to transport to Stanford in preparation for a major journey. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you on the next video.